So, have you noticed how some of the latest smartphones are suddenly lasting 2 full days on a single charge, but they aren't getting any thicker? Well, welcome to the Explainer. Today, we are diving straight into the silicon-carbon battery revolution. This is a massive, completely silent shift happening right now in mobile energy storage, and honestly, it is fundamentally changing the hardware that lives in our pockets.
For the last decade or so, we've all just kind of accepted this hard physical limit, right? If you want your phone to last longer, you just have to deal with a heavier, bulkier device. It's a trade-off we're totally used to. But suddenly, we're seeing a wave of manufacturers completely defying this rule. The big question is, how?
8,500 milliamp hours. Just a few years ago, a 5,000 milliamp hour battery was considered absolutely massive. Yet the new Poco X8 Pro Max packs this unbelievable 2-day powerhouse into a frame that is just 8.2 millimeters thick. From an engineering standpoint, that really shouldn't be physically possible.
And this sudden leap in endurance is actually creating some serious market drama. As Tom's guide put it, Apple and Samsung are quickly falling behind. You've got Chinese manufacturers like Xiaomi, Honor, and OnePlus just surging ahead with these enormous battery capacities in their flagships, while the traditional heavyweights are completely missing from the party. So, what exactly is the secret tech driving this massive divide?
Well, let's get into Section 1. Graphite meets its limit, the thermodynamic bottleneck of traditional batteries.
To really understand this divide, we have to look at the core problem. The traditional lithium-ion batteries we've been using for over 2 decades have simply hit a physical wall. The traditional anode is made of graphite, and graphite has a hard thermodynamic limit. It basically maxes out at a theoretical capacity of around 372 milliamp hours per gram. Because of that absolute physical ceiling, the only way manufacturers could realistically give you more battery life was to just add more graphite. That meant making the battery, and therefore your phone, physically thicker. It was a mandatory compromise.
Which brings us to Section 2, the silicon-carbon solution, rewriting the rules of energy density.
Enter the silicon-carbon, or S/C anode. Now, the most important thing to wrap your head around here is that a silicon-carbon battery is still, at its core, a lithium-ion battery. The cathode and the liquid electrolyte inside the battery, those are exactly the same as the ones in older phones. The actual magic is happening entirely in this newly engineered anode, where that traditional graphite is being enhanced with, or even completely replaced by, silicon nanoparticles embedded in a porous carbon matrix. A great way to visualize the science behind this upgrade is to think about parking cars. Traditional graphite is basically like a flat parking lot with fixed spaces for lithium ions. Once every spot is taken, it's full, right? Silicon, on the other hand, acts like a multi-level parking garage. Because of a specific chemical reaction called alloying, silicon can pack up to 10 times more lithium ions into the exact same physical footprint as graphite. You are literally just parking way more energy in the exact same amount of space. It's actually pretty fascinating.
And for us as consumers, the benefits of this switch are huge. Thanks to that higher energy density, we're getting massive capacities in really slim designs. Take the OnePlus 15, for example, packing a 7,300 milliamp hour battery without gaining any significant weight. Plus, silicon actually lithiates faster, meaning it can accept those lithium ions a lot quicker. In the real world, that translates to crazy fast wired charging speeds, routinely hitting 80 to 120 watts. Oh, and as a really cool bonus, silicon-carbon chemistry actually thrives in freezing winter temperatures, which is exactly where traditional graphite batteries tend to struggle and just die on you.
But with benefits this massive, you've got to wonder why it isn't just everywhere overnight, right? That takes us to Section 3, the hidden trade-offs. Why isn't every phone using this yet?
Because while the capacity is definitely mind-blowing, the technology introduces some severe engineering challenges. 300 to 400%. That is the biggest technical hurdle for silicon anodes right there. When pure silicon absorbs lithium ions during charging, it expands by a dramatic 300 to 400%. Just imagine your battery swelling up like a balloon every single time you plug your phone in. That massive volume change causes the pure silicon to crack, pulverize, and completely lose electrical contact. Honestly, after just a few charge cycles, a pure silicon anode would essentially destroy itself from the inside out.
So how do engineers actually stop this self-destruction? Well, this is the genius of mixing in carbon, and it's truly an engineering marvel. Porous carbon matrices act as a structural scaffold, kind of like a flexible buffer. By embedding those nanosilicon particles inside this carbon matrix, the carbon effectively absorbs all that extreme swelling. It keeps the silicon particles from pulverizing and maintains the electrical conductivity the battery needs to function safely.
But even with that buffer, when we directly compare the features, a clear picture of the trade-offs really emerges. Silicon carbon is just much harder and way more expensive to manufacture. It requires these complex chemical vapor deposition processes that run about $6 to $10 per kilogram. And volume expansion in the composite is still around 25%, which is notably higher than graphite's mere 10%. Most importantly, the cycle life, how many times you can fully charge the phone before the battery really degrades, is currently lower. Silicon carbon yields about 800 to 1500 cycles right now, whereas traditional graphite can reliably push past 2000 cycles.
And it's these exact trade-offs that have completely fractured the industry. Welcome to Section 4, the mobile market divide, a tale of two strategies. Right now, the smartphone market is split entirely on how to handle this silicon-carbon equation. Just look at the tangible market gap on store shelves today for 2026 flagships. On one end, we have the massive 7,000 to 8,500 mAh capacities of the Poco X8 Pro Max and the OnePlus 15. Then you compare that to something like the Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 7, which relies heavily on traditional graphite and tops out at a much more modest 4,400 mAh. The hardware differences are literally night and day. On one side of this divide, we have the aggressive adopters. Brands like Honor, OnePlus, Oppo, Xiaomi, and Motorola are rapidly pushing this tech into the mainstream. They're relying on advanced materials from suppliers like Group 14 Technologies, and they are more than willing to navigate those higher manufacturing costs to deliver 6,000 to 8,500 mAh batteries in ultra-thin devices today. They're basically betting that consumers are going to prioritize daily endurance above everything else. Then, on the flip side, we have the much more conservative stance of Apple and Samsung. Now, their absence here is not an accident. It is a very calculated choice. They are partially prioritizing proven longevity, safety, and scalable cost efficiency over just raw battery capacity. By largely sticking to proven graphite, they can guarantee longer overall battery lifespans, like easily hitting those 2,000 charge cycles we talked about, all while avoiding the higher manufacturing complexities and costs of the newer silicon carbon composites.
Which brings us to the ultimate question for you, the consumer. The next time you're ready for an upgrade, which side of this technological divide are you going to choose? Will you prioritize a remarkably thin phone that confidently boasts a 2-day battery life, even if it means accepting a potentially shorter overall lifespan? Or are you going to stick to the proven, multi-year longevity of the traditional graphite standard? The silicon carbon revolution is absolutely here, and honestly, the choice is officially in your hands. Thanks for joining me for this explainer, and keep learning.